Welcome to the Jake Sewell Podcast. Joining me tonight is Jason Newman. Jason is the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club of Muncie. Jason, welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for stopping by and spending some time with me. I wanted to have you on. I remember as a kid going up and playing boys club basketball and just had a great time up there. You know, you always meet a lot of people and never really knew what it took behind the scenes to run a place like that that helps out the community. So I wanted to have you on and talk to you. Where are you from originally?
Well, I was born in Washington, D.C. My dad was a lawyer in the Justice Department at the tail end of the Nixon administration. And then we moved to New York City when I was a year old. So I grew up in New York City, in Queens originally. Okay. And then my parents divorced when I was about 4. And my dad moved to Brooklyn. So my brother and I commuted back and forth between Brooklyn and Queens. And then in my 30s, I moved out to Philadelphia to be a little closer to my brother, who had moved out there after the Army, and stayed there for about 12 years until moving out to Muncie a little more than a year and a half ago. What
was it like growing up in the big city compared to here, us just small town people in the Midwest?
It's a little different. But it's not as different as a lot of people think. I've been talking about it. It's a city of neighborhoods, and so when the last week before I moved out here, I went back to Brooklyn to see some of my old friends, my old mentor at the school that I taught at, and I stopped off to get a piece of pizza at the place I used to go to lunch every day. Now, I hadn't been in Brooklyn for about 12 years, and the guy remembered me.
Really?
Yeah. The big difference is, though, in Brooklyn or Philadelphia, you walk about 2 blocks away and you can be completely unknown. Whereas in Muncie, I'm finding it much more difficult to find places to go that people don't know me.
Right.
So that's a little bit different.
What took you to Philadelphia? I know you said your brother, but was there a job or?
Actually, no. I had been a preschool teacher with a small private school in Brooklyn, and I was teaching and I was running our summer camp program and I was running our after school program, and I started to get the feeling like, okay, I want to be a director of a program, and I had a great deal of respect for my boss at the time, and I had a good relationship with the president of the board of directors there. And at one point she said, you're not getting that job, and just at that time, my older brother had his first kid, and we were kind of starting to repair our relationship. And he said, hey, why don't you move out here and get a job, or you can nanny the kid, or, do whatever you want. So I moved out to Philly. And I really am not a stay-at-home dad type,
yeah,
especially when it's not my kid. So I went back into early childhood education and was teaching at a small private school right outside of Philadelphia.
How does Philadelphia compare to New York City? Because, you have
right.
your stereotypes of this and that, but I'm sure is it kind of that small town feel once you get in it?
There was. I think the first thing I noticed was, in Brooklyn, I was in a bar band, and it was just a few of us who got together. We were all regulars at this bar, and Thursday nights they'd open up and let us play. And one night we're there, and we weren't getting paid or anything. We were just playing for fun. And somebody comes in with their guitar, and the leader of the band looks at him like, get out of here. And then I moved to Philly, and a few of us went out for drinks one Friday night. And I was teaching some music to the kids and all of that. And the bar band gets up, and this is a real bar band. They're getting paid to be there. And the guitarist says, oh, we hear, there's somebody here who plays a bit. Why don't you come on up? And, I went out back to my car and grabbed the guitar and played. That kind of thing wouldn't happen in New York City. They took that much more seriously.
Okay, so hence the city of brotherly love, right?
Yes.
That's what they call it.
Now, I wouldn't do that, that was in a suburb of Philly. I don't think that would have happened in Philly proper. I think some of the similarities are, I'm a big baseball fan.
Me too.
And I grew up in New York as a Red Sox and Phillies fan. Just the two teams that would piss off
right.
everybody in New York on either side. And that was kind of dangerous to go to Yankees games or Mets games. I got beaten up a lot as a kid. Um, I wouldn't go to Philly and wear a Mets hat.
Yeah, that's a little bit different with their fans.
Yeah.
Wasn't it them that booed Santa Claus and
Yep, they booed Santa Claus.
cheered when Irving got hurt? And
Yeah, I think Steve Carlton put it best that Phillies fans are the type of people that will go to an airport when it rains and boo landings, and it's true.
Yeah.
They are passionate about their sports. They're a little bit you can find your little kind of pockets. So you can be a Redskins fan in Philly. You cannot be a Cowboys or a Giants fan. You will get hurt.
really,
Yeah.
because the Redskins have had good teams in the past.
For a little
90s.
bit, yeah, in the 90s, a little bit towards the end of the 80s, but the Cowboys and Giants, those are just nope, that's
Right.
not acceptable.
Right.
Being a Steelers fan is not really acceptable either.
I could see that. Yep, definitely. Now, how did this road end you up in Muncie?
So, I was teaching in this little preschool in the suburbs of Philly, and I was at a conference, and I was giving a talk on music in the early childhood classroom. And the chief operating officer of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Philly was there, and they had an opening in one of their preschools. And he said, do you want to come interview for this job, as the director there? So I said, yeah, right away. It helped that I got fired from the preschool job because I did not really fit in very well with those people. And I came into the Boys and Girls Clubs of Philadelphia. And I had never been in a club before in my life. We didn't have one near us growing up. I think the closest one was in the Bronx, which would have been, a 2-hour subway ride. But as soon as I kind of stepped into that role, I realized how much a club does for our kids. So I was a preschool director there for a few years. I took on some other roles within the organization, helping with more management level things. And then about 5 or 6 years in, they said, okay, why don't you take over the school age programming for this club and the teenage programming for this club? And I really got into the work that we were doing. After about 4 years of that, again, I started to get that feeling like there's more that I could be doing. And the Boys and Girls Clubs of Philadelphia was a much bigger organization than the one out in Muncie. There are 17 clubs. It's an $11 million budget. So I knew I was not ready to step into that role. So one of the good things about the Boys and Girls Clubs of America is it's a national organization, and there are job postings from clubs around the country. So I started kind of looking at those and trying to find small to mid-sized clubs that I thought would be willing to take a chance on a middle-level manager with skills. And I started interviewing. And, it took about, I think, 4 years of getting a few callbacks, a few, let's fly you out to see you. And then Muncie came up, and I came out to Muncie in August of 2017 to interview. Interviewed with the board of directors, interviewed with the staff, and for some reason, they chose me amongst a number of very, very good candidates nationwide.
So did you hire in at the CEO role?
Yes, I did.
As the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club, what's your responsibilities like a typical day?
So my responsibilities are first and foremost to make sure that our books are in order and we can keep the doors open for our kids.
Where's funding come from?
So funding is primarily through grants. We have 3 special events, and then just individual fundraising. The people of Muncie are incredibly generous. It's the second highest per capita give in the state of Indiana, which is just amazing. But we get almost nothing from fees from our members. Our membership is $15 a year. We don't have any add-ons. It's $15 a year per child, nothing per day. It's $15 a year, and we spend about $4,000 a year per child.
Okay.
So the business people in my family are kind of just shaking their heads.
There's a gap there, yeah.
It's an awful business model. So my job is to make sure that we're able to pay our staff of 27. The other part of it is to make sure that we're not just open for kids, but that we are there helping our young people succeed in life. So our goal for every member is, no matter when you start, we want every one of our members to graduate high school with a plan for what their future is, and a goal and a plan for how to get there.
What kind of challenges do you face other than obviously the budget? I'm sure is always a tough challenge, but logistics or the facilities?
Right. The facilities is a big one. Our building is about 85 years old. I like to say we have a wading pool in our basement now. It ebbs and flows. It's a skating rink sometimes in the winter. So that's a difficulty, is that we have an old building, and now with the resurgence that we've come across over the past 2 years, we have more kids than we have space for. So that old building that you used to go play basketball at, we were seeing 175 elementary school kids every single day last year. And so, sometimes trying to get from my office to the lunchroom to talk with the kids was like trying to part the Red Sea, wading through kids. So there's that. I think that funding is always an issue. And honestly, the reason that I was brought in is we had some major problems that previous directors had engaged in some things that weren't so great. We weren't really running programs. We would just open the doors and say to kids, "Come on in. Here's a safe place to come after school," which is great and it's necessary, but it's not providing our young people with a way to be safe after they turn 18. And so I was brought in. I think the reason they chose me is I had a background running programs with kids, that every single thing we did, if we were coaching basketball, we were talking about school. We were talking about your career. We were talking about what it's like to be coachable. So it's not just become a better basketball player, but become a better person. These are the skills that you need to succeed in life. So that's another part of my job, is making sure that we are always presenting opportunities for our kids to grow, and really trying to expand it beyond basketball. I love basketball, but most of our kids are not going to college on a scholarship.
Right. What programs have you implemented in the last couple of years?
So we've done a lot. One of the things we've expanded our karate program that we used to run out of the Roy C. Bewley Community Center. We recently merged with them, so they are part of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Muncie as well. So we've expanded our karate program. They meet once a week. We started a dance team that has performed at our fundraisers, at the Central High School homecoming, at the Ball State homecoming. We've partnered with Ball State, some Ball State music professors, to teach our children how to play musical instruments, guitars, drums, a little bit of keyboards and ukuleles. We just received a grant and built out a recording studio at the Bewley Center so that we can also now teach our members about the back end of the music business.
That's impressive.
Right. We partnered with TechWise Academy to offer robotics to our middle school students, where they are building and coding robots to compete in citywide and statewide competitions. We just recently are starting programming on our weight room, which is something that I had back in Philly. We had a weight room in my club. And what I noticed was, one, it gave our athletes a better chance to succeed. That a lot of us as young people are able to run and jump for hours, but then you get to that level of, high school and college, and, everybody there has been able to do that. But what really impressed me was the relationships that we were able to build with people. And I told the story of back in Philly, we had a cardio room, and there was a young lady who came every single day. And, she wasn't in the greatest of shape. And I started to notice that she was hitting the cardio room and just running for 2 hours every night. And one of the staff people, kind of called her over and said, what's up? What's going on? And she said, I'm trying to lose 15 pounds to get ready for prom. There's a boy I'm interested in. I want to look good, so he'll ask me out. And that really just started a conversation about, one, running for 2 hours a day is not the best way to get in shape, that there are a lot of other things that you need to do to be in good shape. But the conversation that really impressed me was the one about, well, if he's not going to ask you because of 15 pounds, is that who you want to be with? And that conversation went over into our weight room, where the weight room guys would talk about, okay, what are you looking for in a girlfriend, in a prom date? And the 15 pounds never came up. It was all about the person and the sense of humor. And, she was a girl that would hit the weight room once in a while. And they all thought she was the greatest thing ever, because she was that kind of kid. So it really just started a conversation that I don't think could have happened in any other way.
It's that lack of confidence I think a lot of kids that age have, just through the, I guess, awkwardness of being a teenager. Yes. And to have that conversation had to be a huge impact on her.
Yeah, I think so. And I hope that it had an impact on everybody that was engaged in that conversation. Because I think that's, at the end of the day, that's what the Boys and Girls Club is all about, is being there as a mentor for our young people. Not always as a teacher, not always saying, here's the way to do things, but here are all of the things that you need to think about. So if you want to be a professional basketball player, you need to be a good citizen. You need to be a good student. You need to be coachable. Being a good athlete is almost, that's a given. But these other things are necessary. And if you can build those skills, then you can do just about anything else.
Now, in your 2 years, have you really seen an impact on, obviously don't give names, but certain children, certain teenagers, or the community as a whole?
Well, I've seen it. I've seen it in the kids. One of the things we've done is we have painted every square inch of that building. And, when I came in, the paint was peeling. There were cracks in the floor. The cracks in the floor are still there because we can't cover that with paint. But that work was done by our teens. And, that was a targeted decision about, one, I wanted them to know that I came out here to invest my time and my energy in their having a great club. But the other part of it, I want you guys to do the painting, and I'm going to do it alongside you, and my staff's going to do it alongside you, is this is your club. And so I've seen a lot more ownership, especially amongst our teens, about this is my club. I think there are other things. I think one of the stories that just impacts me the most, that I think about when I have those days when I wonder whether or not I'm doing a good enough job. We had a kid he was one of those teens who would come every day, rain or shine, hot or cold. He was just there every day. And for a week he was gone, and he came in and, hey, how's it going? How you feeling? I assumed he was sick. He said, I was fine, but you have a rule that if I don't go to school, I can't go to the club. And I had to miss school. Well, why'd you miss school? Well, I have 2 outfits, and I hand washed them, and I threw them over the radiator to dry, and our heat got cut off overnight. This is how long it took for my clothes to defrost. And it's, one, I'd never really thought of that, as an issue. But two, here's a kid who's sitting at home cold in his pajamas because his clothes for school aren't dry. And he stays home because I have a rule, about the importance of school. So one, the respect that he showed me and our rules was important. But the other thing that we did was we had a grant, and we were able to buy a washer and dryer just for kids like that. And that washer and dryer is in use every single day. I had to teach some of our staff how to do laundry, which kind of depressed me a little bit. But we have kids who are coming in. What started with him, I'd let him stay a little late and do his laundry so he could do it privately. We have kids coming in with their bag of laundry just to do it. And that's something that just goes across so many lines of nobody wants to be the smelly kid at school. That can get you shunned. If you don't have the money to do laundry, or if you've got to do it by hand, there are things you miss. So that's a difficulty. Another one is we do this robotics program, and this is something that boys and girls clubs around the country do. And there's two pieces of it. One is designing and building a robot and driving it with remote controls, and then the other piece is the kids are supposed to code it to perform certain tasks in a hands-off basis. So when we were starting this program, I reached out to some other boys and girls clubs and said, do you guys have any best practices about what to do? And one of my buddies who runs clubs that are about 5 times our size, $5 million budget, brand new building, says, look, I think your kids are going to be able to do the building the robot and the driving it. We've been running this program about 5 years. We've never coded it. We've never been able to do that. I was watching the robotics team work, and one of them was getting really frustrated with the controllers, and so he asked the coach, "Can I bring my Xbox controller to do the robot?" And Ryan said, "No, you can't do that, but we can recode the controller to be however you want." And all of the kids put down their controllers and got around the tablet and were working on recoding these controllers. And we had planned to do that in December of last year. We actually ended up doing it in October. So not only did we beat out, a club in another state that had a larger budget than we did, but we did it ahead of our own schedule. And just the look on these kids' faces of, well, wait a second, you can code these things, you can change them, you don't have to just worry about what some designer, back east is thinking. We can do this for ourselves. The looks on their faces when they were able to do that and learn how to do it was just amazing and awe-inspiring.
Well, that sense of confidence and achievement is so important, especially in teenagers, because you're always self-doubting yourself anyways. I'm sure that has to be very rewarding.
It is.
You see, that kind of that light bulb click that, hey, I can do this, and then I bet I can do this, and then something else. Another thing you mentioned there I really like is you painted with them. Leadership by example, and I think it's so important. So many people just want to direct.
Right.
And I think kids like that, if they see someone else working hard, I want to do that too.
Right. And I think it's important that, no matter what your job title is, no matter, whether you're a white collar to work or a blue collar or no collar, that if there's a job that needs doing, if we have a clogged toilet in the club, sure, I can take one of my child staff and say, hey, I'll watch your kids, you go do that. But really, they're the ones that have built a relationship with these kids. It is a better use of my time to do that than tell somebody else to do it. I think that we do still have a class system. We do still have a racial divide in this country, and so for them to see, that I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty, and that's for the kids. That's also for the staff. I want them to know that I have done my share of cleaning bathrooms, and I will do it today if I have to. And also, I just really enjoyed doing that kind of work with the kids. It goes back to what you were asking about challenges. The challenge of working with kids is we get those light bulb moments, but we don't get them every day, and there are times that months go by that you don't have one of those, he gets it now. So one does start to wonder, what effect are we having on our kids? Whereas painting a wall, you can look at it and say, I finished that. It looked like this before, now it looks even better. And so it was heartwarming for me to do it. I think it was good for them, but it's also those we are setting a goal and we're achieving it, and that's what really goes to that self-confidence. I'm not a fan of participation trophies.
Agreed.
I'm a fan of set a goal, make a plan to fulfill that goal, and then accomplish that goal, and then set the next one. And so, if it's starting with picking up all the garbage that's on the floor of the club, or painting the walls, or putting the furniture together. If you come by the club, I'll show you which chairs are safest to sit in, not the ones I put together. Whatever it is, I think that's incredibly important.
Now, when you have simple maintenance, like you said, painting or simple repairs, do you try to have the teens probably help out with that to kind of establish a little bit of skills, a little bit of confidence?
We do. One of the things when you have 175 elementary school students in a building, I don't care how big it is, and I don't care how big your maintenance budget is, things get dirty. And so I have found that kids are what I like is if a kid has swept the floor and they see one of their peers walking by and just throw a candy wrapper on the floor, that kid's going to say, hey, you picked that up. And that's going to be much more effective than my saying it. I think you're right. The other thing is building skills that we need, that not everybody can be a CEO of a nonprofit, even in Muncie, even with all of the nonprofits we have. It's also not the right job for everybody. I hear from businesses in the city that there just are not enough laborers out there.
Oh, absolutely. We deal with that out at Mercix.
Right.
We're looking for skilled trade or even just, good press operators, punch press operators. And there was such an emphasis on college. You have to go to college and get a 4-year degree to be successful, and it's false.
Right.
If you want to go to college, great. If you want to become a union plumber or an electrician, that's great too.
Right.
And I think a lot of kids don't understand that because college is, kind of shoved down their throat.
I think we've made a mistake in tying education to college. I think college is important. I think that having access to college is very important across whatever line you want to cross. But that education never stops. I'm learning every day because I'm listening and trying to figure out what don't I know. And it's been a long time since I was in college. That's part of it. I think the other part, as I'll say to the kids, is if your toilet is backed up and you need a plumber, that person is almost getting a blank check. And it's a job skill, and there are people who can make good money at it. And even if that's not the direction you want to go, if you buy your own house, things are going to break. And if you can keep your place clean, if you can work with an HVAC company and learn those skills, if you can do the paint job yourself, you're going to save yourself a lot of money. And if you find you enjoy it, even just as a hobby, that would be a great thing as well. So yeah, we do a lot of that. We last year we got some grants to upgrade our vehicle fleet. We bought a new bus and a new van, and we had an old van that really doesn't work that well. Probably could have gotten a couple of $100 for it if we sold it for scrap. And we decided that we would actually keep it and try to teach our teens maintenance skills. So right now we're up to whatever I know how to do. So that's changing a tire, changing the battery, changing the oil.
Yeah, but even those are skills that you might need on the roadside, right, or if you want to save some little extra money to change your own oil.
Yes, absolutely. Those are and for those kids who really enjoy it, if we can tie them in with a garage that really wants to then go next level skills, then there's another career that's there, or a hobby. I wish I had known, how to fix up a car. I would love to just get up a beat up old jalopy and fix it up. I don't know how to do much. I'm up to being able to change a fuse in the car.
Yeah.
That's not, I can't drop an engine in. Those kinds of things are beyond me. But whether it's as a career or as a hobby, I think that just exposing our kids to there's a whole world out there beyond what you see every day. And, we tend to look at the jobs that we want to do as adults of what we see, either what we see on TV or what we see our parents do. Well, there are thousands of careers out there that we never come in contact with. And so the more of these experiences that we can expose our kids to so they can find out what they enjoy and what they don't enjoy, then they can make better choices for themselves.
Right. One thing I hear from people who are, they want to volunteer, they want to help, is they always say, I get so saddened by seeing, like your young man with laundry. How do you deal with that? Because I know you see it often.
Right.
Is that almost motivation to do better?
It is. there do come times when it gets to be a bit too much, and so that's when you engage in hobbies, but there is that motivation to do better. I've been incredibly fortunate in my 25-year career of working with children. One, the school I taught in Brooklyn, my father lived in that neighborhood. So I kept in contact with a lot of those families. And some of those kids who are 28 now, 28, 29 years old, email me or message me on Facebook, which is odd, that they remember the person who taught them when they were 3 years old. But part of that was just building that relationship. I stay in contact with some of my old kids in Philly. And so there's that kind of, you can see the successes. The failures are motivation for succeeding. That I hope there's a day that we don't need a club anymore, but I don't think it's coming in my lifetime. And so there's always another kid that comes along that has a need. And those needs can be anything. And so for volunteer opportunities, if, one of the things I like to talk about is that if you have a passion for something, come and share that with the kids. Whether it's model trains or building robots or music or basketball or volleyball, chances are if you are passionate about something and you bring it to kids, there's going to be a kid who's passionate about it too. And so those are the things I hold on to when the other stuff gets depressing, is that, wow, this kid picked up a guitar and played it for the first time. Or when I sit in with our music program and play with them, one, they think it's funny because I'm lefty, so I'm holding the guitar the wrong way, and they're saying, "No, you're holding it wrong. Let me show you." But then sitting there and playing, here's this 47-year-old white guy from Brooklyn, New York, who's playing with me, who's having me show him what songs we're learning. Those are the things that energize me on a daily basis.
Now, what ages do you guys have at the Boys and Girls Club?
So we take them from kindergarten until they are done with high school. We do take them back sometimes after high school, but then we have to hire them.
Right.
So we do get a number of our former members are now staff people. Actually, we have a former member who was a junior staff person, a youth of the year for the Boys and Girls Clubs of Muncie, 2 years running, then became a staff person and now sits on our board. Just because the club was such a huge part of his life that he wants to give back in every way that he can. And he volunteers at the club directly with the kids at least twice a week. And so I think there for those kids to kind of look up to him and say, "Oh, Mr. Kevin, he still comes back here, even though he's doing something else now."
That's very good. You mentioned just stopping by and sharing your passion as a way to volunteer. How about other ways to volunteer or donate?
Well, we always have projects to do. So the best way to find us is at our website, www.bgcmuncie.org. You can follow us on Facebook at BGC Muncie, Boys and Girls Clubs of Muncie. We are on Twitter. I don't know that handle. We are on Instagram, but all of that is findable through either our Facebook page or our website. We can take donations through that. We have 3 events a year. So we have our Great Futures Breakfast for Dinner. That is in January every year. We do a golf outing in May. And what's coming up next is our Just Desserts event in October, which is a dessert auction. And our kids, actually our music club and our dance team will be performing there. We are trying to actually have the kids, cook one of the desserts that'll be up for auction, so you can also see what we're doing there.
Is that at the club?
No, that will actually be at the Ivy Tech Ballroom on October 3rd. Once we finalize all of the details, that should be going on our website probably Monday.
Excellent. I like having people on like you, helping in the community, helping these teens and these elementary age kids through the Boys and Girls Club. But I also noticed you're really involved in the Muncie community as well. How has Muncie treated you? I mean, I'm sure it's a little bit different than New York City or Philly, right. But how's Muncie been? What do you like about it?
Muncie has been incredibly welcoming. Whether it is, I do open mics at the Fickle Peach every Monday. And actually the other night I was there and I was outside having a beer, enjoying the not 95-degree weather, and the sign-up sheet went out, and I wasn't at the bar to sign, and I went in to get another beer and sign myself up. They had already done it for me, just because they knew I like to play, and I like to do the opening because I'm not as young as I used to be, so I can't stay up till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning and then go to work the next day. So I like to go on at 9, be done by 9:15, home by 10. So there's that. There is I've done 2 shows at Civic, and it's just it's an amazing experience for me. One, because I am kind of shy, so kind of getting up there and performing in that venue is difficult. But what I love even more is there's a camaraderie that builds amongst the cast. So I think some of my best friends now in the city came from Civic, which is just amazing. Um, I was talking with Mitch Isaacs over at the Schaefer Leadership Academy that I think the difference is that I've noticed is I always wanted to make a difference when I lived in New York and when I lived in Philly, but there was a strong kind of governmental almost exclusion of, well, okay, you're not, you haven't paid your dues yet. You put in 15 years volunteering with us, and we'll then start to listen to you. Here in Muncie, they don't care. What they want to do is they want to see, do you care? Are you willing to put in the work? Great, come on in. I likened it to, we are filling in a hole. Nobody cares what your politics are or how much money you make or where you come from if you are standing next to them with a shovel helping to fill the hole. And so that's one of the things that I really love about this city is that it's been through some really hard times, but the people here are all coming together to say, what can we do to help? And it's important to me, not just on a personal basis of wanting to make a difference, but it's important to me for my kids to know that as well, that we can do only so much work with the hours we've got these kids. For elementary school, it's from after school to 6 o'clock. With our teens, it's up till 9 o'clock. There are the problems that they face don't stop, as soon as they walk out our doors. So no matter how bad you have it, there's always somebody that you can give a helping hand to. It doesn't have to be money. It can just be listening when there's a problem, or, hey, I see you're having a hard time. You need to paint the YWCA for Muncie Outreach. I know how to paint because I learned it at the club. Let's go over and paint. So there's that part of it. But I think it's important. I think it's important that we all kind of work together, and that's what I really see here in Muncie.
Yeah, it's really been on the I would say on the up. It seems like the last 10, 15 years. When I was a kid in Muncie, we never went downtown.
Right.
There wasn't anything down there. I mean, you had the Herat. Of course, not going to take an 8-year-old there. But since I moved back here in 2010, it's just been on the rise. And I had Cheryl Crowder on a few months ago, and she talked about how, when Mardi Gras started, they rented out all the spots to all the other bars, and now there's nowhere to rent out because all the spaces are filled. So you came at a really good time.
Yes.
It's still on the rise, obviously, but you came in, we got all these breweries and these craft beer bars, restaurants, boutiques, all that down there. So, well, I'm glad you enjoyed Muncie.
Right. I have.
It's like a lot of places that, people want to be negative. But if you really get looking around, there's a lot of positive going on. I mean, we have our problems like any city, but it's growing. It's there's a positive group of people that I think are trying to make a difference, like yourself. So you're playing open mics?
Yes.
I love music. I play myself. So we got to talk about that. What type of music are you into?
To play, because I taught myself everything I know musically. So I play a few different instruments. What I play now, because it's mostly me alone, is a guitar. It's the easiest to accompany yourself on. So I do a mix of things of kind of oldies rock, 50. I go oldies. I'm in my 40s, so 50s and 60s. I heard somebody talking the other day. I'm doing oldies, and they're doing stuff from the '90s.
That's not oldies.
Yeah. So I do a lot of that. Then my brother in Philly and I had, before I left, we had tried to start a band, and we are both huge science fiction nerds. And so he's a better writer than I am. I'm a decent editor. But so we wrote folk music, science fiction, folk music. So I'll do a bunch of his songs at the open mics. What I like to listen to is a lot of that same music that I'm trying to play. But then, there's a genre of rap, nerdcore rap. And it is basically white guys, rapping about Commodore 64s and games. So that's something that just, kind of my time I listen to.
Right.
So it's rapping about my childhood.
That's interesting. Yeah, there's so many types of music if you get looking. What other instruments do you play?
So I play the drums. I was actually a drummer in a gospel band in college for a little bit. I can play the bass, is actually what I started on. I learned the tuba in school, so I can still kind of get some things out of that. I'm trying to relearn the piano. I took a few lessons because we always had a piano in the house because my dad played. But I got away from that into the guitar. I can play the cello. I can play the trumpet a little bit, not very well. And I was talking with somebody last night. The full mustache, I think, would make it difficult to play the trumpet. Right. Again, which I didn't have when I was 12. Really what I like, I can get a tune out of anything except a woodwind instrument, which kills me because I always wanted to teach myself how to play the bassoon.
Is it the reeds?
Yeah. I can't do it.
Yeah.
And it bothers me.
Yeah, music, I started playing guitar when I was about 17 or 18. It's so rewarding, and I really hope my son gets into it. I know you guys have your music program at the Boys and Girls Club, because it's something you can do your whole life. You can only play sports for so long. You can only do certain things for so long, but music you can play forever. And
it gives us a language about things that we don't have a vocabulary for. I'm not an emotionally healthy person. I'm just not very in touch with my emotions. I know I have them somewhere, but I'm not very good at letting them out. And kind of sitting down and finding a song, an old Bob Dylan tune usually is good for whatever it is I'm feeling, and really to get that out. One of the programs that we do run is actually called Lyricism, which is about writing music. It's not something I do well, but that ability to get these feelings out in a way that's socially acceptable, in a way that's actually emotionally cathartic. So whether I love music, we do that with painting and other forms of art. We do that as one of the other programs we run. Laura Williamson from Muncie Civic comes over to the club and does drama with the kids. So really trying to give those outlets for emotion. And for me, music is the best one because we all do it. We had a bad day. Either you put in some uplifting music to get you out of your depressed mood, or you put in some more depressing music so you can really kind of get those feelings out.
Right, and playing music, for
Even
me,
better.
Coming home and plugging in a guitar, it can take a whole day away. It really can.
And again, there's that, it is rewarding because, again, you sit there and you listen to the music you love. I grew up loving the Beatles, which is kind of how I started on the bass with an old record player and just kind of followed along with McCartney. And there are still songs I can't play. But when I just learned how to play John Lennon's I'm So Tired. It's like I've been wanting to learn how to play that for 20 years, and I got it.
Yeah.
Wow.
The reward.
Yeah.
It just feels so good. You finally accomplished it. Absolutely.
And then you play it 57 times in a row, and you go, okay, I'm bored with that.
Yeah, then you get
What's
tired.
the next one? Yeah.
Right. Jason, I really appreciate you stopping by and talking about the Boys and Girls Club and your background. Like I said, this podcast is to focus on the positive things in the area, and the Boys and Girls Club is definitely one of them. I definitely need to stop by. I like to see it. Like I said, it's been over 20 years since I've been in there, but see all the positive improvements.
We do a coffee morning, one Wednesday a month. That's just open to the public. Come by, have a free cup of coffee and a free donut, and we'll talk to you about what we do and show you around.
That would be great. Once you go ahead and give everyone way they can follow you and the Boys and Girls Club one more time.
Okay, so go to our website, bgcmuncie.org. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram under Boys and Girls Clubs of Muncie. And I am on Facebook a lot. You can find me now. I am on Facebook myself, and then I have been roped in for the second year running to try to help raise money for the YWCA, sort of as a foil for people. So I would be remiss if you go to Meredith Demery's Facebook fundraiser. She is going to do something very uncomfortable for me if she is the first to $5,000. She is going to make me sit outside the YWCA for an hour giving out free hugs, because I am not a hugger.
I'll have to make sure if she reaches her goal to promote that and make sure we get a big line out there for you. Jason, I really appreciate it. Appreciate all you're doing for the community. Welcome to Muncie. I know it's 2 years in the making, but welcome, and glad you're enjoying it. As always, follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Until next time.